What's up, my fellow actors? Kurt Yu here, actingcareercenter.com. I'm really excited to bring you another interview today, this time with my friend Jenna Kanell, who's a very talented actress here in Atlanta. Actually, to say she's just an actress is not giving her enough credit. She's also a writer, a director, assistant director, stunt performer. In fact, it seems like half the potential jobs on set Jenna has done in some way, shape, or form. You may know Jenna from the horror films Terrifier and The Bye-Bye Man, as well as television shows like The Resident and NCIS New Orleans. I actually met Jenna before I came down to Atlanta. The Bye-Bye Man was a movie that was filmed in Cleveland, and when Jenna was up there filming that movie, she found me to help her tape an audition while she was there. And she was actually one of the first people to tell me about what the film industry was like down here in Atlanta, which eventually led me to move down here for my own career. During our conversation, we actually debate how much credit Jenna should get for my career success. We also talk about what she's been up to during the pandemic, what she likes about acting in horror movies, and what she's been doing in terms of her writing and her directing, and also how that has helped her in her own acting career. Now, before we get started, I do want to mention that you'll see in the video that I keep reaching down under my desk a lot. And it's not because I'm just scratching my foot the entire time. It's because my dog is pawing at my legs during the entire videos. And sometimes I pick her up and put her on my lap, and sometimes I put her back on the ground because she's getting restless. But that's why you see me kind of squirming around during the video and I can't sit still. All right, enough talk from me. Here's my interview with Jenna Kanell.
And 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Well, not really live. We are recording.
We're recorded live.
Recorded live. People don't know the difference, I don't think. Jenna Kanell, what's going on? How are you doing?
What's up? I'm doing great. How are you, Kurt?
I'm doing really good. So first question and most important question for you. So when you started your acting journey, whenever that was, we'll get into it later. But when you started way back when, and looking into the future, how long did you think it would take you to get to the point where a fan would tattoo your face onto their body?
To be honest, I didn't think that was a point that I would ever reach. And also, I didn't even know that that was a point to reach. I hadn't even thought about it.
I didn't think that was a thing that people did either until you posted about it.
And now 3 different people, I believe. It's either 2 or 3 now.
It's up to 3. That's crazy.
I think so. It's I have my face on strangers. It's very flattering, I think.
Are they like all over the world? Do you know where these people are? Or is there is someone like in Atlanta walking around with your face on their body?
Not that I know of. No, that would be something. I know the one that I posted that I'm pretty sure you saw was in Australia.
Yeah. Okay, so for people that don't know, Jenna was in a movie called Terrifier in 2016, 2015, or released in...
We filmed, I think, in 2014. I think it came out in 2016, and then it didn't hit Netflix until a year or 2 later, and then people heard about it.
Oh, yeah, and once it gets the Netflix treatment, then everybody sees it, and it's become kind of a cult classic all of a sudden. Well, I don't know if it can be a classic, a cult hit since just in the past few years. And it's a horror film. Jenna is the lead in it. And because of that, you've gotten your face on people's limbs.
Yeah, that is a weird place where you don't necessarily feel like you're, I don't necessarily feel like I'm at whatever level of success I hold myself to.
Yeah.
But my face is on a stranger's body forever. So
which is insane.
I take that. Which is wild.
That's now something new that I will have to aspire to.
You want me to get your face tattooed on my body? So we just get that out of the way?
Yeah, sure. We can get that out of the way.
Yeah, just hit that milestone right now.
And then I can just quit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, just retire.
Perfect. Okay, so let's move on and we'll probably get into Terrifier and horror films and all kinds of stuff as we chat. But well, I haven't talked to you in a while. So what's been going on with you in terms of what have you been doing in the quarantine? How have you adjusted? Sure. What have you taught yourself any new tricks?
Yeah, I know, it's true. I'm used to running into you accidentally all the time,
Yeah.
and then also purposefully seeing you at least, every so often. So
Yeah.
it's nice to see your face again.
Yeah, good to see you.
During, yeah, thanks for having me on this.
Totally.
And I think it's a cool thing to do in general. In terms of quarantine and my pandemic activities, at the beginning I did a lot of development work. So I have a couple of different scripts and various decks and marketing materials that I had been wanting to update and revisit and look at with fresh eyes. And so I spent a lot of time at the beginning doing that, of just revamping a bunch of two different features, which are at different stages of funding, and a show, a pilot. And then right now I'm actually, which I'm sure we'll talk about this more, but I'm prepping to direct a proof of concept version of one of those features that's garnered a little bit of attention, which is pretty exciting. Awesome. And then also at the beginning of the pandemic, I had one of these things where I've always wanted to be the type of person who meditates every day. And so I became that person, and now I meditate every day and have been. Thanks. Yeah. Pretty much the whole pandemic. I highly recommend it. It's very, very helpful.
Do you, is it like something you do first thing in the morning, or do you set aside a certain time of the day, first thing in the morning?
Yeah. I try to first thing in the morning, among my morning routine, I'll kind of do some either working out or yoga or something to get myself connected to my physical body. And then once my heart rate's up a little bit, then I'll usually make some time to meditate. And something that's been helpful for me, that helped me actually commit to doing it every day, is that I don't have to do it for a long time. I just have to do it.
Yeah.
I just have to show up and do it. And that's been very helpful.
Do you use an app or anything like that to help with it?
Yeah, I actually use Insight Timer, which is free. Okay. So plug for Insight Timer, because they have a ton of thousands of guided meditations. And then they also have timers on there. So just normal timers. So you can, take your pick of whatever you're in the mood for. It's been very helpful.
So fun fact for some people, besides some of the people that I knew here in Atlanta that moved down from Cleveland that I knew before, you're the person that I've known the longest here in Atlanta, because we met in Ohio back in 2015 when you were up there shooting The Bye-Bye Man, which is our first shared IMDb credit.
Yes.
Which what was the name of your character in Bye-Bye Man? Kim, who does the seance. And then I was a firefighter towards the end of the movie. And so you were up in Ohio filming the movie, and then you were looking for someone to tape an audition that you had.
You were the only one.
I was definitely the only one. I knew at the time.
Well, you've been killing it since you came down here, and I hope that we have many more shared IMDb credits. Actually, I think weren't we both? There's at least one show that we have now both been on.
We were on Shots Fired.
That's right.
And
The
Resident.
Boom.
Yeah. I think
credits.
We were originally going to be on the same episode of The Resident, but you had a conflict and you had to go work on something else, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But then later on, you booked a different episode of The Resident.
Yeah.
Which I think I can't remember what your original character that you booked was, but I think this later one was a lot cooler because you got to be in a spacesuit and you were flying around and
It was a blessing in disguise. It's one of those things that sometimes you just got to be patient and see what happens, because you're right. I mean, excellent memory. We were supposed to be on the same episode, but then there was some other horrible hurricane that was happening at the time. And so I remember it was some really bad storm. And so a bunch of dates got moved. And so my NCIS New Orleans date ended up overlapping. But you're right that the one that I remember thinking like, oh my God, but I wanted to be on the show so badly. And I can't believe how can I, not do both, a very champagne problem that I was very grateful to have.
Exactly.
But then, yeah, I mean, you're right. Then last fall, almost exactly a year ago on my birthday, actually, I got a much cooler role on it. So
you were on set on your birthday?
Yeah, which is where I want. I mean, Bye-Bye Man, I was on set on my birthday too. That's what
really?
Always awesome. What I want to do on my birthday. Yeah. I remember they got a cake, and the director, Stacy Title, held my extensions back so I could blow out the candle.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
So I think one thing that I want to talk about, and I think it would be great for kind of aspiring actors that are watching the channel to hear, is just stories about, like, kind of like the story of how I met you, and that's how I learned about what was going on in Atlanta, and then coming down here, is that so much of this industry and this career is built on relationships, and just people, and helping them out. Like you can definitely, read books and watch YouTube videos and all that stuff. But I think the majority of the stuff, at least that I have found, so much of my, big moments in my career that have helped me out has been learning something from another person that I've met, either on set or any other random way.
Yeah. I agree with that.
Anything that that comes to mind for you that has really helped you out in terms of relationships? Because I'll say also, like, not only meeting you in Cleveland, but also after I came down here, you were gracious enough to reach out and say, hey, let me know when you come down to Atlanta. And we met a couple times, and then you also helped me get my first booking down here in Atlanta. It was as background on one of Hannah Panuski's projects. But that was like my first week down here, and I was like, hey, I'm on set already, which is great.
That's awesome. I had totally forgotten about that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. I love that stuff. I mean, I always want to work with my friends and get my friends work whenever possible, because I mean, like you're saying about relationships, and as you know, you're on set for such a long time. I mean, the days are so long, and sometimes the conditions aren't ideal, and it's just, you don't want to be in that circumstance with anyone you don't enjoy being around. It makes it so much better when you're enjoying that sort of camaraderie. And those relationships, it's always funny how they pay off, and how in ways you never expect. I actually have a very cool one that happened to me right before the shutdown. I had a meeting at Monkey Paw, Jordan Peele's company, and which was incredible. And I hopefully did not act as geeked out as I felt. But I remember I had the meeting, and it was really great, and it went really well. And we're still, the person who I met with, we're still chatting about some stuff that'll hopefully percolate. But point is, I was leaving the meeting, and someone said my name, and I turned around, and it's this woman who I had worked with on like a student film, like a short film 5 years earlier, who is now one of their heads of development, and remembered me from that short film 5 years before.
And that was film that you directed or you acted in?
That I had acted in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it's one of those moments because we spend so much time planting seeds, and you come back and you water them, and you come back and you fertilize them, and you come back and whisper sweet nothings and play jazz to them.
Yeah.
And some of them never go anywhere, but some of them do, and you never know where they're going to bloom or when. And so it just, those moments are really nice to reinforce that, because sometimes I feel like I'm flinging spaghetti at the wall.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to fling spaghetti at the wall, because some of it's going to stick.
Yeah, and at the same time, like I like the planting seeds analogy, but at the same time, sometimes it's almost like you're not consciously planting them. You're just kind of like they're just falling out of your bag.
Yeah, right? That's true.
As you're walking around, and like the more that you walk around, the more places you go, the more seeds that just like kind of fall out of your bag. You never know which ones are going to actually grow out of something. That just came off the top of my head. I'm so smart.
That's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, you should write a book for sure.
Yes.
No, I love the gardening analogy too, because then it's also, sometimes it's not even that, like you're saying. I mean, I like what you're saying about how sometimes it's just seeds falling out of your backpack, but they're seeds that you've been cultivating for a long time before they just fall out, right? They're not.
Yeah.
Because like there was a film that I did a couple years ago called The Frontrunner, this Hugh Jackman movie that films here in town.
Yeah.
And I was hired for 2 days, and I showed up and I was professional and I did my job and I did my best, and they ended up keeping me for 6 weeks, I think, 5 weeks. And so that felt like one of those moments where you know, I was happy and grateful to have the 2 days. And then I think it turning into more was somewhat a product of some of it's luck, of course, always, and being in the right place at the right time. But some of it is also like being prepared to show up for those relationships and you know, doing the homework and having prepared for years beforehand for one moment.
Yeah. That's great. I love that. And I think another part of it is that Tofu is like just going crazy here on my lap. She will not let me put her down.
She knows she is the focus.
You're really doing things in multiple aspects of this whole industry. It's not like some people are just, you know, pursuing acting and just doing the acting thing, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. But I love seeing that you're doing, you know, you're writing and you're directing, you're producing, you've done AD work, just like everything that you can get your hands on the industry. It seems like you're doing. How did you get into doing all that? Which one came first? Was it writing, directing, acting?
Well, thank you, first of all, and I admire that about you as well with your incredible photography.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I've been writing in one form or another my whole life, so I guess that one kind of came first. And you know, we're all inherent storytellers, and so I've always loved leaning into that. I think in terms of production, I actually directed first and then kind of oddly backtracked and then ended up learning to produce and then ended up ADing. And then for me, the more I do any one of them, the better I get at all of them. And that's part of my attitude and part of, you know, I mean, every time I direct, I become a better actor. Every time I AD, I become a better producer. I mean, it's, and I think it helps flesh out the whole picture, and you become a more conscientious actor by knowing how all the other pieces work and how the whole machine works and how the train moves, if we're going back to metaphors.
Yeah.
And not only that, but it was, you know, I'm not always making money acting. Sometimes I am, and I'm so grateful when that happens. But when I'm not, I wanted to find ways to make money that weren't waiting tables. And there is nothing wrong with waiting tables. Have lots of friends who do that. I have too much attitude to succeed in customer service. I don't think I'd be good at it. And also just for educational purposes, I really wanted to find other ways to supplement my career and my education and my you know, bank account, because capitalism's got to survive somehow.
Yeah.
But you know, I didn't go to college in the conventional sense, and so every time I work on set, that's university to me.
Yeah, totally love that. And I think for people that do want to get into the industry, really in any way, whether you are trying to get into it as a director or a actor or anywhere else, it's beneficial to learn about all the other aspects of it. The more you learn about the whole thing, the better you'll get at just, you know, what you're trying to focus on.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think a lot of actors sometimes, you know, we just focused on, especially in the beginning. And I think most actors probably, if they're just going down that path, they start to, you know, we start just by going to acting classes and just learning like that little aspect of it. But I have found, just in my experience over the years, is that just being on set in any capacity, you learn so much. You learn so much just watching other people too, watching how other people do things. One of the greatest things that I learned way, like back when I was still in Cleveland, was, you know, sitting in on casting sessions. Right. And then seeing the actors walk into the door by the hundreds or whatever it is.
Oh my gosh.
And
talk about an education.
Yeah. And then you're just like, oh, okay, so this is what it's like. And like, it kind of helps you get rid of those nerves, because you know what everybody else is going through, and then what the people on the other side are just as nervous as you, because they're trying to cast their project and get the right people for the project.
Yeah, and I similarly, right when I graduated high school, I interned at a taping service in town, and I remember the same thing. You when you see one person after another come in reading for the same role, you learn so much about the choices that stand out the choices that you appreciate but don't necessarily fit, and people understanding the tone, and people just the way that we present ourselves, how important that is before the read even starts. And also, I mean, you know, obviously the artistic side of all of this is incredibly important, and the craft, so to speak. But at the same time, if you have no business sense, then you can have all the talent in the world and no one's going to see it.
Let's go back to directing for a second, because you said that you kind of fell into doing directing first and then producing and then writing your own things. The first thing you directed was Bumblebees, is that right? And I think that was coming out right around when I had met you. And
yeah, that was 2015.
Yeah.
And that was right when I had moved back to Atlanta, because I had been in LA for 4 years working out there. And that's when I joined the union and had done my first couple of features. And then Atlanta was really starting to pick up around then. And which is why I ended up coming. I basically was doing this thing where I was going back and forth. And then I was like, why am I paying rent in LA when I'm in Atlanta all the time?
So when you were in Cleveland doing Bye Bye Man, you had already moved back to Atlanta at that point?
I think I just had maybe 6 months prior, because that was in the fall. Because I remember actually I filmed Terrifier, came home for literally 24 hours, and then left and filmed Bye Bye Man.
Where was Terrifier filmed?
New Jersey.
Oh, interesting. Cool.
Yeah. It's Trenton, scenic Trenton, New Jersey.
Oh, one of my good friends from college is from Trenton.
You've actually heard of Trenton?
Oh, yeah, I've heard of Trenton. She makes fun of Trenton a lot. So that's where, like, I've heard jokes of Trenton, but I've never actually been there.
Yeah, I'm not from there, so I'm probably not allowed to make fun of it, but it's tempting. But so Bumblebees was the first. So I had just moved back to Atlanta, and someone sent me an email about this 48, and you know, we've all heard of the regular 48-hour film festival. We have these prerequisites, and you have a weekend to make a short. Someone sent me, there was the disability film challenge version of that, where which is now run by Easter Seals. They were having a contest where it's the same thing, 48, you get certain requirements, but either the lead in the film or someone making it had to be in the disability community in some way. And my brother is, as you know, he's autistic and has cerebral palsy and a number of other things. And so someone sent it to me, and Tofu has opinions.
He does.
They sent it to me and they said, you know, check this out. And so I thought, I'll write something for him and it'll be fine. And I'll just find someone else to direct it, because I had never done it before. And we have, I mean, there are certain things that we think we can't do just because we've never done them. And and so it was a very low stakes situation. And I ended up not being able to find someone who I thought would have been a really good fit to direct it. And I also got to a point where I thought, you know, this is my younger brother. He's really comfortable with me. This is a short film. No one's ever going to see it. Why don't I just direct it? Who cares?
And it was his first time on set and acting and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So,
So it kind of was perfect for me to direct it, because I helped make him comfortable, and he is used to listening to me boss him around anyway. So it's, you know, old big sister energy. And so it ended up working out really well. And the film, we won that contest, and it ended up doing really well on the festival circuit. And I ended up doing a TEDx talk about it. And so I think after that, and then I ended up finding out much more about the gender disparity in filmmaking. And I thought, you know, that was fun. I think I'm okay at it. I guess I'll keep trying to do that.
That's awesome. That's such a great story.
Thanks.
That you kind of like just fall into doing something that you weren't necessarily interested in at the time, but then and then you do it and you find out you like it, you find out you got at least somewhat of a knack for it, and then you start to develop that skill, and you've been directing many more things since then.
Yeah, well, and I think some of it, two things. One, part of it is that we talk about, I was just joking about how we have very little control as actors. Obviously you can control yourself and that's about it, but it was very cool to have that creative control for once, to say, no, I want it to look like this and feel like this, and to have, and I also will say, you know, even though I ended up directing it though that wasn't my intention. I definitely should clarify that I very much prepared. I didn't just show up on set and
Right, sure. Yeah.
I did a lot of reading, and I did a lot of researching, and a lot of watching other disability films, and I did a ton of prep. And I had like a binder, like very nerdy, you know, color coordinated, all the things. So I definitely did a lot of research, but obviously, like you're saying, I think you're completely right that nothing actually, this sort of stuff, no matter what role you're in, nothing really prepares you like just doing it.
Yeah, yeah. So you've done you've written and directed a number of short films now. Do you have any features coming down the pipeline?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So nothing you can really share too much about yet, but you do.
Yeah, well, there's the thing that I'm about to direct, the proof of concept, is to continue pitching a feature that we've gotten some really exciting interest on from some folks that I really like and that could really help it go very cool places. So nothing is set in stone as it ever is, especially now, but it's going to get made. It's just a matter of when.
That's right.
And and I co-wrote that one with my writing partner and to direct it. And then I did this year produce my first feature documentary, which was a learning experience.
Yeah.
Half of it was before the pandemic and half of it was during, which is a learning experience with a capital L.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that'll prepare you for everything. And it'll prepare you for the next pandemic. Hopefully that's not for another few decades.
Yeah, or after my lifetime. Maybe I'll be dead by then.
Yeah.
Who knows? And then the only other one that comes to mind is there is a feature that I co-wrote with the same writing partner, Todd Jacobs, who and that one I would be starring in and producing, but not directing, because I'm not trying to do those two things at the same time.
Yeah, that would be. I don't even understand how people do that.
I don't either. And I know for me that if I try to act and direct at the same time, I will be half-assing both instead of just full-assing one. So
always full-ass one thing, then try to half-ass two things.
If anything is the takeaway.
I can't understand how people can do that. Definitely, even on like the short film level. And then there are people that do like these huge Hollywood blockbusters and are somehow able to do it. I bet that, you know, when you're on like one of those giant movie sets, you just have such a huge team behind you.
I think is what I was gonna. Yeah.
Got to have a really, really good first AD that's, you know, basically sharing a brain with you. Right. So that when you are on camera, they can be reviewing everything. I mean, either that or a producer, but like you're saying, someone who you really, really trust. Yeah.
And that's hard.
Well, whenever you do get that proof of concept or get the feature film off the ground, I'm sure it's going to be amazing. I mean, not only you, I think you're very talented and I think you'll do a great job with it, but also just Atlanta as a whole. Since I've come down here, I've been blown away by the amount of talent here in front of and behind the camera. I've told so many people from back in Ohio that one of the biggest differences I see going from a small market like Cleveland to a much bigger production market like Atlanta. Obviously, there's a lot of, you know, big budget movies and shows that those are the things that people know about. But I think because of that, like the one of the residual effects of that is that like the indie projects are so much higher quality. The people that are working on the indie projects, they really know what they're doing. It's not like just like some kid has a DSLR camera and they're just shooting something on the weekends, which was really what was going on in small markets like Cleveland. Like basically everything was a 48-hour film project because that's kind of just only what we knew. I remember my first time doing a 48-hour film. My friend who wrote and directed it, the day of the 48, the day that it started, he went to Best Buy to buy a new camera. He's like, oh, I want to use this new camera. And then we spent so long just trying to figure out how to work it,
I bet.
And then once we actually figured that out and we shot everything, the footage was not compatible with our editing software and all that stuff.
Oh no.
We ended up turning in that movie like 4 days late. Like it was like, it basically, we had a week. We spent a week.
Hour. Yeah.
It. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So like that's like the level, and it's nobody's fault, right? It's just that we just don't have that experience there,
right?
Whereas so many people here do.
Yeah. Well, and like we were saying before, I mean, because when there is a bigger indie community, then you can go and work on other people's and learn from their mistakes before working on your own. I mean, that's one of the reasons I have really enjoyed assistant directing the last several years, is because I have worked with a ton of different directors, and obviously I love that I now understand how to build a schedule and how that aspect of things works, and how shooting for your edit and things like that. But I've definitely learned a ton from working with directors and learning from their mistakes so that I don't have to make them.
Yeah.
If you're paying attention, you can learn from even the most incompetent people.
Yeah. Super smart way of doing things.
Yeah. And I should clarify, I mean, I've worked with a lot of very competent directors as well, but sometimes it's easier to learn from someone when they're doing it wrong, because you can see what they're doing wrong.
Yeah.
Whereas if everything is, it's like when you watch a good movie, you're not thinking about necessarily why it's good or how it became good, because you're immersed in it and it's got you.
Yeah.
But when you're watching a bad movie, you're not immersed in it because it's bad, and you can identify, oh, the sound is terrible. Oh, this music takes me out of it. So sometimes you can learn more from the bad stuff.
Yeah. So there's a good little nugget. Go seek out some bad directors to AD for, and and you'll learn a lot.
Or just do background, and then you can learn without all the stress.
That's true. I mean, yeah, just like we said before, like anytime you can be on set in any capacity, you'll learn a few things for sure.
Because I don't want to recommend people go in first AD for bad directors, because I have lost years of my life. I'm not going to live as long because of some of those shoots. So, well,
you know what? Some of the first ADs that I've seen, working on, when I've worked on like some of the bigger budget projects, and these people that have been basically lifers, they've been first ADs there for like decades.
Yeah.
They look like they're 200 years old.
They probably feel like it too.
Yeah. Like they don't have any time to sleep ever.
No.
They're awake 24 hours a day smoking.
Yeah, smoking coffee in one hand, cigarette in the other hand, on amphetamines, whatever you got to do.
But they are very good at their jobs.
Yes,
yeah,
correct. But I mean, like what you're saying, I mean, it sounds like you did the same thing. I definitely did background work at the beginning much more. And I think everybody should, because you should know what it feels. First of all, you should know what it feels like to be at the bottom of the totem pole, because it's an awful feeling. And then it gives you more appreciation when you move up.
Yes.
But then also it's a way to have no responsibility whatsoever and observe and just watch how everything works.
We started off the whole thing by talking about Terrifier. And Terrifier was not the first like kind of horror piece that you've worked on. So somehow, some way, like your career has like steered you into this direction of horror. How was that done consciously by you, or if not, how did that end up happening? Do you know if there was a something that sparked it from the beginning?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I have a face that people want to kill. I have no idea. I'm not sure. I mean, I really love horror, so I'm not upset about it. I think horror is fantastic and underrated, and when it's done well, it's high art. Yes. And when it's not done well, it's just a lot of fun.
Yes.
And I'm not sure why that ended up happening. I mean, I think at this point it's like, now it's an association thing, I guess. I think some of it is also just numbers of, there's a lot of horror that gets made because it's a genre that's relatively cheap to create and relatively easy to sell compared to other genres, and easier to sell to other markets. and easier to make money on and things like that. So I think some of it is just that there's just a lot more horror being made. Some of it is that I understand the horror, tone. I think that's certainly some of it. And being a fan, when you're a fan of something. You
understand the tone of running away and screaming and fighting for your life.
Yeah. Well, and also just, taking outrageous situations seriously and making them feel more grounded. And I have a pretty good scream. I think that's probably doesn't hurt. And but I have done other genres. It's just I think not as many people have seen them.
Yeah. What was your first? I know you worked on Vampire Diaries many years ago. Did your character survive that, or were you killed off? So you were killed. Was that your first?
They leave it ambiguous.
Oh, okay.
That might have been one of the first ones.
The first death.
My first death. Oh,
was that the first time you got? Was that the first time you got killed in a project? No. The first. I think the first time I was killed was in. There's a feature that I did called Misfortune. It's an indie feature. I did it. I was in my early 20s years ago, and that was probably my first death. And we shot in Tucson, Arizona, and I had a prosthetic bullet wound in my stomach, and I was covered in blood. And I remember I had to go to CVS right after I wrapped to get something. But it was the middle of Tucson, and no one cared as much as I thought they were going to. Really?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe they're just used to that type of stuff in Tucson.
There's a lot, they bust a meth ring there every year. So I don't know if that's.
Do they? I had no idea.
Do. It's a beautiful place. I'm not crapping on Tucson.
I lived in Tucson for a little while.
I think we've talked about this.
Yeah, when I was in 4th and 5th grade. But I was not too interested in the meth rings and stuff back then. So
for the best.
Yeah, wouldn't have known about it.
The best. Yeah, that's good. That's good. I think that was. Maybe I was killed before then, but that's one of the ones that sticks out for sure.
So maybe that was the catalyst. Maybe somebody saw you die in that, and they're like,
they were like, oh man, look at her lifeless eyes. Just we got to get more of that.
Yeah,
I'm not sure. I know that there were a bunch of short films where I died as well. And then horror, I think also some of it has to do with the fact that it's got such a loyal fan base.
Right.
Like people who love horror, myself included, really love it. It's not, there are very few just casual horror perusers. I'm sure that has something to do with it.
And because of that, like when a little indie project like Terrifier gets released, people will still watch it. They'll gravitate towards it. Whereas if you make like an indie drama of any other, genre, it's going to be it just gets lost because people aren't like specifically searching for those types of things a lot of times.
Yeah. That's definitely can be the case.
When you did Terrifier, once that like really became a hit and, people started, following you on social media and then getting tattoos of you and all that crazy stuff. Did that start opening doors for other horror projects, or did that start opening doors for other things as well?
Horror, yes. Other things, not so much. Other things, sometimes it can almost be a detriment, I think, actually, but not always. I mean, in other genres, sometimes it's better if they've never heard of that really weird cult thing you've done.
Sure.
Sometimes you'll get someone who's randomly a really big fan of that sort of thing, and it can definitely help you.
Yeah.
And it's definitely opened doors in the horror world, though, for sure. It's definitely helped in that arena. And I remember when I was much younger and starting out, someone pointed out to me, don't have a problem with the idea of being typecast because it has the word cast in it.
Exactly. I've learned that for sure for myself. Like I'm always the guy in the suit and the tie, and like that's like my only headshot. It's the only headshot I show anybody. It's like, look, you don't have to
white collar business guy.
Yeah, you don't even have to think of me in any other role. It's just like I definitely work for this. So
yeah, it's branding. Again, it's a business thing.
Yeah.
It's good to have a sense of how you're seen. You can see yourself a certain way, but if no one else sees you that way, it's
exactly.
I mean, that was a big part of my cutting all my hair off, was a branding choice.
And so that's a funny thing, because I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, I was at my studio, and I share the studio. As you know, I share my studio with Rob Prolgo, and Rob was there, and we were just chatting about something. I was shooting for another client who was a returning client, who had just changed her hair, and Rob was there, and he was like, "Who's that one actress who came in like 25 times because she kept cutting her hair progressively shorter?" And I was like, "Oh, that was Jenna." He was like, "That's right. I remember seeing her in here so many times."
Yep. That was me. It's hard to figure out, man. I thought my hair was going to look a certain way when I cut it short, and it did not. I thought I was going to have cute little like Carey Mulligan, like white girl hair.
Sure.
Contrary to the rest of my body, I don't have white girl hair. And so it's taken a long time to figure out what it does and how it does it when you, because I think it was wavy when it was long. Mm-hmm. Not that we came here to talk about my hair, but it was wavy when it was long.
I'm going to show all the different headshot progressions as we're talking about this.
Sure. But it's just like, when I cut it off, it got very, very curly. And so it took a while for me to figure out how to style it and how to wear it and what it, what to do with it.
Are you going to get to a point where you shave it all off?
Definitely.
Yeah.
It is just a matter of time. I'm looking for an excuse.
Are you going to start with like a side shave, or are you going to go all out? Or are you going to go for like something like a mohawk first and then?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I'll probably either do a mohawk, or I'll do like where you have just the top with like a man bun ponytail situation. Shave the rest and then just take it all off.
Have you seen that hairstyle that like, I don't think they do it anymore, but in like, if you see like old school, like Kung Fu movies from China, the children have this like hairstyle where it's just a circle in the front. Like all their whole head.
I'm not going to do that.
No, you're not. Oh.
It's very tempting though. But I think some punks have brought that back. There are some people where they'll shave everything except their bangs.
Oh, I've never. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No.
Or they'll have like just the sideburns.
Oh, come on. Have you? What is the one style called with where it's just a circle, where it's a ring, it's the beard and like it's like a beard.
Oh no.
Just a circle around the head. I can't remember.
I don't know, but no one should call it anything. It shouldn't exist. That sounds very upsetting. That sounds really upsetting.
It looks horrible.
I don't like that at all.
Well,
I'm not going to do that.
Speaking of like different hairstyles and branding and type, one of our mutual friends, Alexis Louder, she shaved her head, and then like her career, like obviously not because of that. She's an amazing actress, but like for whatever reason, like her amazing acting skills were not being cast when she had her longer hair, and then shaves her head, and then boom, right?
Yeah.
I'm sure other factors came into play as well, but that was a big thing.
But it is a branding thing. I mean, it is, because not everyone who shaves their head or cuts their hair is going to see more bookings. But it's literally just like your voice, your mannerisms, like how you dress, how you present yourself. It all comes together to, it's not a magic solution, but it's.
Speaking of Alexis, she acted in one of the films you directed and wrote. Did you write Max and the Monster as well?
I did.
So you wrote and directed Max and the Monster, and actually the two stars, you basically launched two careers with that, because after Max and the Monster, Alexis' career took off, and then after that, Daniel booked a huge role on Insatiable, and then like.
And now he's on that Amazon Prime show.
And on the Amazon Prime show, Tales from the Loop.
Daniel Kang. Yeah. He's the two of them. I can't take any credit at all for their careers, but for my ego, we can say
you already took credit for mine, so you might as well take credit for two more.
I'll take, sure. I would love to. I love it. No, I think I'd like to think it's just a taste thing that, I saw that both of them were really good and fit really well. I'm still looking for an excuse to put you in something. I just got to find the right, I mean, like you're saying, it's not necessarily has anything to do with what people, whether we're good or not. It's a lot of it is just what's the role that do you fit kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, it's
a guy in a suit. You need a guy in a suit to do any sort of corporate.
I know I haven't had any corporate guys.
Yeah,
I got to get my corporate guy game on. But I mean, Daniel, it's funny because Alexis, I mean, she's fantastic, but it actually was a pretty close call because of a handful of the people that came in were really, really good for that role. I mean, and a bunch of people that we know, and all had very different looks and feels.
Sure.
And they were all very strong. And some of it came down to also the chemistry that we wanted between her and the monster and how the two of them interacted together. So a lot of it came down to that. Daniel, on the other hand, I knew from the beginning he was the one for that role.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you read reviews about your projects, about yourself when they pop up online?
I do. I know you're not supposed to, but sometimes it's just so funny. I don't go out of my way to read that stuff, but once in a while I think it's really funny. It's funny that there are actually some comments on my TEDx talk about Terrifier. And obviously they could not be more different from one another. So sometimes it's good to get a kick out of that stuff. Keep
someone going to watch your TEDx talk for some heartwarming, stories, and then they're like, "What is this?"
Like, yeah. Sometimes it's just entertainment.
Speaking of your TEDx talk, didn't you almost die on the day of your TEDx?
Yes, yes. How do you know this?
You told me, I think. I don't know how else I would know this unless you told me.
Yeah, no.
Or I was stalking you and I was the one poisoning you.
God, Kurt, how could you?
Because I don't want to pay you your manager fees that you are due for my career.
So instead, you're trying to slowly kill me from the inside out. And you almost succeeded. Yeah, no, it's true. I mean, it's funny because, and when I watch it, I can tell, and hopefully other people can't. But when I first found out I was going to be doing a TEDx, I kept making jokes about, I hope I don't lose my lunch in front of 100 strangers and my mom. And then when the day came, I actually almost lost my lunch in front of 100 strangers and my mom, because 2 days beforehand, I got really bad food poisoning. And you have to be there for several days leading up to it because there are dress rehearsals and tech rehearsals, and they do a bunch of talks, at least in Tryon, South Carolina, where I did mine. There are a bunch of talks all on the same day. And I don't know what it was that I ate. I mean, I'm vegan, so it narrows down the options. I have no idea what some rogue romaine lettuce, perhaps. Yeah. But I couldn't keep anything but saltines and ginger ale, if that, down for 2 days leading up to that. And so the entire time I was just focusing so hard on not barfing in front of this audience.
And will have the energy to stand up.
Well, you notice I don't pace a whole lot. I just kind of stay in one place.
Do you have any final things you would love to share? Anything, any nuggets for actors? Maybe a resource, a favorite resource that you have had, maybe an acting book or a podcast or a website or something that you've liked over the years? Doesn't happen recently.
Sure. Larry Moss, his book is incredible. His book is very, very good. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. I think we've talked about this before. Yeah. I mean, and I think we've also talked about him before. I have trained with him, and it's transformative. And so obviously that's the ideal, but if you can't train with him, his book is very, very good.
Do you know if he's like everybody else is doing Zoom classes now? Do you know if he's doing them?
I don't know.
That'd be interesting, because I know like some of the other like LA, famous LA teachers are doing them. So
right.
That'd be
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I mean, because the advice would obviously be different now too. I mean, and we also said already, one piece of advice that I would always give is to do every position, to do a lot of different positions on set, and not just learn about acting, to learn about everything else.
Yeah.
Which is still possible now, even though it's tougher, and also to take improv classes, which I think are still happening, and if they're not, they will be eventually again.
Yeah, for sure.
Improv classes are great. but yeah, his book is really good. For a while, Margie Haber had an app that was actually very helpful. I don't know if she still
really?
does that. Yeah.
Did you also take classes with Margie Haber?
I did. Yeah, I took her master class, and with Eden Bernardi, who unfortunately passed, but she used to be there, and she changed my life for the better. But yeah, and I mean, but also, I mean, what we're talking about with flights and driving and forensics, and I think all actors should have more going on than just being an actor. I mean, I think it's
totally.
You become a whole person when you have other interests and you know how to do other things, and when you have other passions, and it makes you more complete, I think, and people can pick up on that.
Yeah, totally. All right, so anything coming up for you that you can share? I know there are a couple things, couple cool projects coming down the line that you can't talk about yet, but what are some things that you can share that are either upcoming or that recently have come out?
Sure. On the recently come out, well, because the upcoming stuff we talked about off air, I can't put on blast quite yet, hopefully soon, but things that have just come out, two things. One, there's a short documentary that I directed and edited about the importance of disability inclusive teaching in the STEM fields, in the science, technology, engineering, math. And that was very cool because it was conducted like this entirely via Zoom interviews. And I've talked to educators and children and students and all sorts of diversity in regards to not only how we normally think of it, but also abilities and cognitive development and things like that. And that was really cool. And that's out, which I'm very proud of. I made it with and for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill.
Awesome. Congrats.
And thank you. I'm really happy with how that came out. And it was also a cool exercise in directing people that you're not actually in the same room as. Yeah. And then on the acting and stunt performing front, there's a music video that I'm the lead in that's a lot of fun. Very bloody, have to warn folks, but it's called This Is Our Life, and the artist is Des Rocks, DES space ROCS. And I'm really, really proud of how that came out. And again, I mean, it's weird being on set when you can only see the top half of people's faces, and you have all the other protocol that are in place, but it was a ton of fun to make, and I'm really proud of how that came out.
I saw that video. It's amazing. It's amazing. I'll put a link to it for people to watch.
Thank you.
It's I mean, if you're a fan of horror movies, you're gonna like this video.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
I do. Well, it's up for debate, I guess, whether I live or die. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, I like that little ambiguous ending. It's good. Yeah. Always, it sets the stage for a potential comeback, potential sequel where there's a lot more blood and fighting and guts and all of that.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the other thing is that Bliss is Orange, which is a narrative short film that I directed, is on the festival circuit right now and has been doing very well. Obviously, festival circuit being either your local internet or drive-ins, but drive-ins have actually been pretty fun.
It was just in a drive-in here in Atlanta, right? Yeah, that's awesome. I haven't gone to any of the drive-in. They have looked pretty cool. Some of the things.
They're fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're pretty fun. I mean, you feel like you're in high school. You like sneak in. Maybe this is just me. Sneak in a flask and candy, and you're just in your own car, like. And I also like it because I love to talk about stuff as I'm watching it, and that way I can actually do that without getting kicked out or bugging anybody.
That's a good point. Yeah, that's good. All right, cool. So let's plug your social media or whatever, all that good stuff. Where can people find you?
Please only find me on the internet. Please don't look for me in real life. I don't like being followed in person.
That's true.
On Instagram, I am Squid Enthusiast. So Squid Enthusiast, like someone who's enthusiastic about cephalopods. And I'm also that on Twitter. And then Laser Pigeon Pictures is my production company. That's the website. But yeah, Instagram is the easiest, most accessible place to find me, probably.
Fantastic. All right. Yeah. Great. Well, it was awesome chatting with you, Jenna. It's been a while since I've seen you, a while since we've talked, and it's been great. Great catching up and great hearing some of your stories. Some of the stories I've heard before, some of them I haven't, and it's neat to hear, especially because you and I both know the more people we meet in this industry, you find out like everybody has such a unique story of how they got into it, and then also like how their careers have progressed, because this is such a it's not like one of those cookie cutter jobs where, you know,
there's no path.
There's no path. There's definitely no path. So the more that people can learn about the paths of everybody else, you know, the more that they can, you know, hopefully be able to pick and choose little things that they can add to their own careers and help themselves out. So that's part of the reason why I try to interview people and talk to people. And also I just like chatting with people and learn things for myself as well. So thanks so much for joining me. Thank you. And stay safe. And hopefully we'll see each other soon. Hopefully we'll see each other on set again. And
I hope so.
Share another credit.
Thanks for having me.
All right. See you later.
Thanks again, Jenna, for hanging out with me, and thank you for watching all the way to the end. Any questions or comments, leave them down below. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and until next time, keep practicing, keep learning, and I hope to see you on set one day.